Hey Brandon, how you doing? All right, so we got your poster up, Norman Hayworth, and I think my first reaction here is the actual size. There's a couple of things that are happening that really make this very, very aggressive. Almost like I almost feel like somebody is yelling Norman Hawthorne to me, and I'm not sure if that's the really the most advantageous approach here. So I don't think we need to be quite so aggressive in the typographic presentation. For example, the typeface is very, very big. It takes up more than half the composition. And this being 11 by 17, when you print this, I mean, that name is just going to be enormous in the composition. I think that the sheer size of this really eliminates any possibility of activating negative space in the composition. I also think the fact that things are basically center aligned is also impeding the ability to activate the negative space. So in other words, all of the negative space associated with this placement seems like it's just leftover space. And I think that we can really make this more visually engaging by activating the negative space. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples of how to do that. But first of all, let's take a look at the typography. So first, we got the relationship of the head, subhead, and the headline, and both are set in serif typeface. My recommendation here is to add some typographic variety and introduce a sans serif typeface either here for the subhead or for the laureate's name. The next thing is that you've got this stroke on the laureate's name, and you do not, I mean, most professional designers will discourage the use of strokes on letter forms. I don't ever stroke letter forms, ever. And the reason being, and follow me on this, the reason you don't stroke letter forms is because it actually changes the shapes of the letters. So whether this stroke goes on the center of the perimeter, on the outside of the stroke, or on the inside of the stroke, either way you place a stroke on it changes the shapes of the letter forms. And as I said, it's either by eliminating some of the interior area or expanding the outer area, which affects the negative space between letters. And really right down here, you can really see what I'm talking about, where that kind of stroke just impedes. It stops these diagonals from meeting way above where they're intended to meet. Okay, so for that reason, I recommend not ever stroking type. A better alternative to stroking type is this. If you want to add black to this, the purple, my recommendation would be to take the whole typeset, duplicate it, place it behind the purple, duplicate it, set it in black, place it behind the purple, and offset it a little bit. And that's just a far superior technique than actually adding a stroke. Okay, next, let's talk about alignment. Now, I think the piece lacks alignment in a lot of areas. Let's take a look at how. So the word Hawthorne or Hayworth, I'm sorry, the word Hayworth is centered. Okay, we can see equal left and right margins. The word Norman is not centered. It's not centered in the composition, and it's not centered on Hayworth. And that's problematic because this space right here is larger than this space, which creates a very uncomfortable visual tension, makes it look like it's a mistake. I think I have an idea of the reason that happened, and that is in order to fit the two O's without. I mean, I'm guessing. I don't know if that is but the point is that if you're going to center a line, truly center a line. Now, that being said, I do not recommend center alignment because center alignment does very little to activate the negative space associated with any typographic composition. And the reason for that is because it creates symmetry, okay? The shapes on the right and left side of center aligned type are identical, and that's not engaging. Symmetry is not usually the most interesting thing in terms of graphic design. I also think that the type is very, very, very big. Now, this is an interesting composition right here. I think these kind of molecular illustrations are very interesting, and I think it's an interesting solution. The problem is that they're shaped differently. So they're both supposed to be playing the part of the O, right? But this is a different shape than this, so theoretically they're not both playing the part of the O. One would think that since this is shaped differently than this, it would indicate a different letter, and quite feasibly it might indicate an A, being that it has the apex in the middle and these two diagonals meeting, which is the basic construction of the letter A. So W-A-R-T-H, Haywarth. So that is something that you really need to consider. My recommendation would be just to use the exact same molecular structure here and here. I would left align. I would reduce the heck out of the size here, bring it down and to the left. That way you don't have equal distance from the top to the bottom, left or right, which means you are effectively activating negative space. If there are conceptual reasons for not left aligning and placing in the lower left-hand corner, by all means, let me know. If you think right alignment is more effective conceptually, by all means, let me know. But I'm just using left alignment as an example. I'm not saying you have to do it. I'm saying that's an example of a technique to activate this negative space. So theoretically, you would left align this. I would reduce the size of these, especially that. That just extends so far above the cap line, it's going to impede you from closing down the leading here, which I think you should do. I do think you close down the leading. That's the space between Norman and Hawthorne, or Hayworth. Another thing we want to talk about is kerning. So we've got this is kerned pretty well, but take a look at that distance right there is too wide. And then this is really wide right here. I would reduce this space right here, this space right here, and actually definitely this space right here. And yeah, I would bring these closer together. A good idea is to take a look at the distance between your serifs here and kind of use that as a gauge. You don't want to make these identical, but you want to make the distance between the letters appear to be evenly distributed, even though they're not going to be. So this is a good guide as the relationship of the serifs. Of course, you won't be able to bring that serif close to that serif because of this arm of the capital T. So that's why I said it's a basic guideline. Okay, so as I said, I think, so we reduce the size, place it down here, and then right align the father of carbohydrate. I'm sorry, left align father of carbohydrate. So basically you have Norman, Hayworth, father of carbohydrate, all left aligned, right? And that's going to really do wonderful things for the negative space here. Okay, so those are my recommendations moving forward. If you have any comments or if I can make any clarifications, please let me know. But as it stands right now, I think that let's start with that and let's see how it looks, and we'll take it from there, okay? So if you want to repost to this forum before your final submission for Sunday, have at it. I'll be glad to provide further comments and recommendations. But at the very least, I'd like to see these changes reflected for Sunday. In a perfect world, I would like to see you repost here so we can address this and then carry on from there. Okay, very good start. Thank you so much for sharing.